I don't have a gallbladder. How can I possibly digest all that fat? In humans, the liver is the organ that creates bile, which is used to break down fats in a process known as lipidosis. The gallbladder, if you have one, serves as storage for bile. Even without a gallbladder, you can still produce bile for lipidosis, but you may want to ease into a low-carb, high-fat diet slowly and see how it goes. Or you may do better on low-carb, high-protein, moderate fat. There are many kinds of low-carb diets. As for big dietary changes in general, even people with all their factory original parts might want to ease in slowly. Didn't Paleolithic people die young? I don't want to croak early on some wacky caveman diet. The life expectancy of our distant ancestors was low, on average, due to high infant mortality rates plus injury. They didn't have modern medicine, ambulances, or even snake-free houses. But our hairy forefathers and foremothers who avoided becoming tiger chow went on to live long and healthy lives without, according to their teeth and bones, the many chronic diseases of modern times. Note, the so-called caveman, or paleo diet is not low-carb unless you do a modified version. Paleo excludes grains but includes starchy root vegetables, fruit, and honey, all of which are high in carbohydrates. Who has the time to learn any of this stuff about health? I don't have the time. You'll have even less time if you don't look after your health. Ouch. But my good side has a more hopeful message: you'll actually save time on low carb. After a few weeks, you'll notice you don't need as much sleep, and you don't get hit by the mid-afternoon nap fairy. Your energy will be better. You don't need to know it all instantly. Pick one of the recommended books and read a few pages a day, or listen to a podcast while driving. If low-carb diet is so great, why don't the big organizations recommend it? Those check marks appear on foods that contain inflammatory seed oils instead of saturated fat. Never mind that saturated fat does not cause heart disease, whereas seed oils such as canola do cause heart disease and also cancer. How do you think the nation's growers and processors of grains, legumes, soy, and cheap seed oils would feel about a radical new food pyramid or plate that eliminates their products? It takes time for institutions to change, especially when doing so means admitting they contributed to the needless suffering and deaths of countless people. Who wants to admit their role in the current health crisis? The damage of bad guidelines ripples out, hamstringing dietitians and doctors. It affects everything from school lunch programs to the food served to our armed forces. On the bright side, change is in the air. Doctors and dietitians who get it are feeling happy. They got into their field to help people, and they are now seeing lives get turned around. As of 2019, the American Diabetic Association guidelines include low-carb diets as a treatment option for people with type 2 diabetes. That's miraculous, considering the organization is funded by pharmacological companies that only profit when people stay sick and on medication. Is the low-fat diet of the 1980s really that unhealthy? See for yourself on the corporate sponsor page at diabetes.org, or other trusted institutions. Changing guidelines are great news for the people whose doctors suggest stop eating toast, orange juice, sweets. Not necessarily. Some people do well on a low-fat diet. The low-fat diet is not for everyone, and can be hard to stick to long-term. Far more people do better on a low-carb diet, which is now being proven in clinical study after study.